live in interesting times.
For the headlines.
Thailand's Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha formally hands over the symbolic ASEAN chairman's gavel to Vietnam's Prime Minister Nguyen Xuan Phuc.
The United States formally notifies the United Nations that it is withdrawing from the Paris Climate Accord, making the world's largest economy the sole outlier from the agreement.
Chinese President Xi Jinping has expressed a high degree of trust in Hong Kong's unpopular leader, Carrie Lam, as the two met after months of increasingly violent protests in the semi-autonomous city.
And a magnitude 6 earthquake struck Chile was a huge anti-government demonstration was underway. Our ABC correspondent has an update.
I'm Alma Angeles, wherever you're watching from around the world. Thank you very much for joining us.
We welcome our viewers here in the Philippines and around the world. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sam Cepeda.
And now to the news. First to Bangkok during the closing ceremony of the 35th ASEAN Summit and related summits, Thailand's Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha formally handed over the symbolic chairman's gavel to the Vietnamese Prime Minister. Vietnam will officially become the ASEAN chair on January 1, 2020, the third time it has held the responsibility after 1998 and 2010. Take a look.
Your Majesty and honored guests, I have every confidence that Vietnam will take on the ASEAN chairmanship from Thailand with pride and will carry on ASEAN's dream of advancing partnerships for sustainable peace, freedom, security, and prosperity in the region for present and future generations. So allow me to leave you with the following idea. To ensure sustainability in ASEAN, there must be 3 C's. That is, continuity, complementarity, and creativity. I therefore wish Vietnam and ASEAN every success for the next year. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to witness this historic moment, inviting you to count it down. We are counting it down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Build on those achievements in 2020, we'll focus efforts on consolidating cohesion of ASEAN. This shall be done through intensifying the solidarity, unity, strengthening economic integration and connectivity, deepening the values and particularities of the ASEAN community, improving the ASEAN institutional capacity and strengthening ASEAN engagement with the global community. Let us think community and act community. I welcome you all, ladies and gentlemen, to Vietnam for ASEAN 2020. Thank you very much.
Your Excellency, Prime Minister of the Socialist Republic of Vietnam, inviting you to kindly take your seat now, Your Excellency. The Socialist Republic of Vietnam will officially assume the ASEAN chairmanship from the 1st of
Now,
January.
the year 2020 marks ASEAN's 5 years of community building, halfway to Vision 2025, a community of peace, prosperity, and sustainability. The 10 ASEAN members traditionally take turns chairing the regional grouping in alphabetical order.
Summing up the achievements in the past year, Thailand Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha said ASEAN had worked for its people to enjoy greater sustainable security, to facilitate trade and to promote sustainability in the region through consolidating cooperation with ASEAN and between ASEAN and external partners for the benefit of the people, among others. Here's more.
ผู้นำอาเซียนได้รับรองเอกสารมุมมองของอาเซียนต่ออินโดแปซิฟิก
ASEAN's vista on the shifting geopolitics of our times and seeks to decrease competition and confrontation between major powers in the region. ASEAN has also established a mechanism to resolve the humanitarian situation in Rakhine State, and it is our hope that ASEAN will continue to play a role on this issue in order to help with preparations for the repatriation of the displaced persons. Second, we have worked to ensure that ASEAN cooperation over the past year will help to facilitate trade and cushion the impacts of trade conflicts and economic disputes between our major trading partners. We have concluded the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or RCEP, according to the Joint Leaders' Statement on the RCEP, which is a coming together of countries that together account for 32% of global GDP, almost half of the world's population, and 30% of global trade. As a result, ASEAN will benefit from increased market access to trading partners. In addition, this year, ASEAN entrepreneurs will receive concrete benefits from the operationalization of the ASEAN single window in all 10 countries, the conclusion of the ASEAN MRA on type approval for automotive products, the initiation of the establishment of the ASEAN network for combating IUU fishing, and a roadmap for the development of sustainable capital markets in ASEAN, among other things. In addition, we have promoted an ASEAN identity through declaring 2019 as the ASEAN Cultural Year and supporting ASEAN's joint bid to host the FIFA World Cup in 2034. All of this so that ASEAN citizens can together take pride in being a part of ASEAN. The joint bid will also help to promote the development of football, health, and sportsmanship for people of all ages in ASEAN, especially following the signing of the MOU between FIFA and ASEAN 2 days ago. And lastly, we have worked to promote sustainability in the region through consolidating cooperation within ASEAN and between ASEAN and external partners for the benefit of the people. ASEAN leaders have adopted the Vision Statement on Partnership for Sustainability to serve as a guide for continued efforts to bring about sustainability in all dimensions. We have also established the ASEAN Center for Sustainable Development Studies and Dialogue in Bangkok to support work in this area. And at present, Norway, Switzerland, the European Union, the United Nations, World Bank, Asia Foundation, and the Rockefeller Institute have expressed interest in developing concrete projects with the center on the basis of the Complementarities Roadmap, which aims at promoting synergies between the ASEAN Community Vision 2025 and the UN 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development.
Staying at the ASEAN, Prime Minister Shinzo Abe praised the signing of the revised ASEAN-Japan partnership deal at the summit in Bangkok recently. Again, let's listen in.
On institutionally strengthening connectivity, I welcome the signing of the revised protocol of the ASEAN-Japan Economic Partnership Agreement. I hope for its early entry into force so that service trade and investment are further vitalized. I welcome the progress in the RCEP negotiation. RCEP is important from the strategic and economic point of view as it will realize the world's largest free and fair economic area, thus bringing free and open Indo-Pacific into fruition. I'd like to see the continuation of cooperation toward the early conclusion by the 16 countries. In response to the rapid progress in the digital innovation, we will be discussing with other countries at the Fourth Industrial Revolution Dialogue measures to develop an environment for ICT-based disaster risk reduction cooperation and for the greater penetration of digital business conducive to resolving social challenges.
Now, he also vowed to double Japanese investment and loans to the Association of Southeast Asian Nations to spur development in the region. Again, let's listen in.
In In order to support financially this joint statement, we shall launch initiative of overseas loan and investment for ASEAN. Mainly in ASEAN region for areas such as quality infrastructure, financial access, support for women, and greenfield investment, we are prepared to double the loan and investment by JICA going forward with the aim of mobilizing funds, including from the private sector.
Prime Minister Abe also vowed to coordinate with ASEAN in realizing a free and open Indo-Pacific. It's a concept designed to promote stability and prosperity in areas between Asia and Africa in accordance with principles such as the rule of law and the freedom of navigation.
The United States accused China of intimidation in the South China Sea. U.S. National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien urged freedom of navigation. He led Washington's delegation to the summit of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, and Parallel East Asia Summit.
Or the big countries should not bully other countries. We talked about the South China Sea, and the fact is that there are claimant countries that have oil and gas and mineral and fishery resources in the South China Sea. That those resources belong to those countries and to their kids and to their grandkids and to the future of the ASEAN countries, and they should not be intimidated into giving those up just because another country may be bigger or stronger.
At the ASEAN Summit, China's Deputy Foreign Minister Lei Yucheng accused some outside countries of meddling in the sea, answering a question on U.S. comments about the waters.
个别的域外国家，不愿意看到南海风平浪静，这个不远万里跑到这里来，就是要在这个地区兴风作浪，搬弄是非，这个激化矛盾，制造紧张。他们不顾地区国家的这个关切，用他们的那一套来强加给我们，把他们那一套强加给我们，所以我们不能接受。
In return, O'Brien later said, "We don't think we're meddlers." Again, let's listen in.
We don't think we're a meddler, and we always come where we're invited. Unlike some other countries, we like to be invited in. We think those disputes ought to be handled peaceably. We don't think they should be handled through intimidation or through maritime militias or by ramming ships or by surrounding islands. And that's just not how things should be done in the 21st century. Those are things that, that's like, that's conquest. Those are things that happened hundreds of years ago, and it shouldn't happen between neighbors in Southeast Asia.
Chinese Premier Li Keqiang on Sunday offered a conciliatory tone on the South China Sea, saying that Beijing was committed to progress on a code of conduct aimed at setting guidelines and reducing tensions.
And the news continues here on Eagle News. We'll be right back.
Huli na MTRCV ang
Welcome back. The United States has formally notified the United Nations that it is withdrawing from the Paris Climate Accord. Washington presented its withdrawal letter to the UN on the first possible date under the accord negotiated by President Trump's predecessor Barack Obama, making the world's largest economy the sole outlier from the agreement. The U.S. will be officially out on November 4, 2020, one day after the presidential election in which President Trump is seeking a second term on appeals to the white working class. The U.S. went ahead with a pullout despite mounting evidence of the reality and impact of climate change. Announcing the move, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo reiterated President Trump's rationale in 2017 that the accord would disadvantage U.S. businesses. French President Emmanuel Macron, meanwhile, who unsuccessfully tried to persuade President Trump to stay in the accord named for his nation's capital, lamented the decision. Beijing also expressed regret over Washington's decision ahead of the planned signing Wednesday of a joint document on climate by President Xi Jinping and President Macron.
中方对美方正式启动退出巴黎协定有关程序表示遗憾。我们认为，气候变化是全人类面临的共同挑战，国际社会所有成员应当携手合作，各尽所能，来共同加以应对。
Si nous voulons être dans le respect de l'accord de Paris, il nous faudra l'année prochaine rehausser nos engagements en matière de réduction d'émissions. Il nous faudra l'année prochaine confirmer de nouveaux engagements pour 2030 et 2050. Et la coopération, à ce titre, entre la Chine et l'Union européenne est décisive.
A fast-moving fire that broke out on October 31 in Ventura County exploded overnight, growing to nearly 9,000 acres the next morning. The Maria fire prompted mandatory evacuations, affecting roughly 10,800 people. Our ABC correspondent Winverly Rivera visited this center that's providing shelter for the fire victims. Here's more.
After a series of consecutive fires in Southern California, there is another fire that broke out called the Maria Fire in Santa Paula. This affected about 9,412 acres of land. Although it is 50% contained already, there were many evacuees. And with this said, let's communicate with those who evacuated from their homes.
All these people were brought here because their neighborhood was being cleared by the fire department because the fire is getting too close.
The fires are getting tiring. I've lived out here for 23 years. The first 21 years we had one fire. In the last 2 years we've had a fire each year. So I don't know what's going on, but it's becoming an uncomfortable place to deal with whenever the wind comes up.
Well, you asked me how I feel about folks impacted by this particular incident or similar incidents, and the Caneo-Reckon Park District is an independent special district to provide rec, park, and open space services to the community. And one of the things that we provide is community centers. And so it feels really good to know that in the community's time of need, we have the kind of places people can come to take shelter. And we have really excellent staff that help folks get out of harm's way. So normally throughout the year, we're providing rec programming, we're taking care of the parks, we're maintaining the buildings, we're doing lots of great stuff. But when the community really needs it, CRPD can kind of shift gears and kind of be the facilitator to help, with some of the emergency services as well.
This is the second year in a row that our park district has been providing shelters for people in fires, and it's really nice to see the community come together. Everyone on our staff has been so awesome, and everyone with the Red Cross just working together to provide all these people with a place that's safe to go to get away from the smoke and the fires. so the past 2 years we've been here pretty much all day, but it's been really nice to be able to help everyone and be there for the community.
So Edison took the power down as a precaution while they're cutting a tree down that could have taken them out for a long time. So we have no power at the center, so we had to temporarily run little generators and cords. So they have temporary lighting and some basic stuff to charge phones and whatnot and get them through the night. Keep checking and adding fuel every couple hours to keep them running, and that's about it. We use them for this all the time. That's what their job is, so they can, they're meant to do this.
I am Winverly Rivera, coming to you from Santa Paula, and I am 1 with 25.
A magnitude 6 earthquake struck Chile while a huge anti-government demonstration was underway. Here's Kevin Cortez for an update.
Clashes erupted between anti-government demonstrators and riot police during the so-called Super Monday of protests on the streets of Chile's capital city of Santiago. Tens of thousands of people also gathered in Plaza Italia, the epicenter of unrest over economic inequality and other woes. Then they tried to march on Presidential Palace in downtown Santiago. Fights broke out with police trying to contain them, with officers firing water cannons and tear gas. Protesters angry at high cost of living, the gap between rich and poor, high pensions and expensive health care are demanding the resignation of conservative President Sebastián Piñera. Piñera held talks with the opposition parties last week, but he said he failed to convince them he has the will to make the necessary changes to calm the protests. A UN human rights mission is investigating allegations of police brutality. Prosecutors say 20 people have died in unrest since the protests began on October 20. President Piñera tried to crack down on riots in the first week, but the bid backfired. Piñera was also forced to cancel the hosting of two major international summits, the APEC summit and the COP climate meeting, due to the unrest. Also, a strong 6.0 magnitude earthquake shook Chile on Monday, rattling buildings in the capital with a big anti-government demonstration underway. The U.S. Geological Survey said the quake struck at 6:53 p.m. with its epicenter near northern town of Illapel. A strong and prolonged shaking was felt in the capital. Chile's National Center measured the quake at magnitude 6.1, revising down an earlier estimate of 6.3. There was no immediate reports of damage or casualties. Meanwhile, the current wave of demonstration, which is considered to be the worst in decades, was sparked by a now suspended metro fare hike. The demonstrations have since evolved into a movement with wider grievances aimed at addressing the rising cost of living, pension reform, and police conduct during demonstration, as well as demanding the resignation of President Sebastián Piñera.
Reporting from Santiago, Chile, this is Kevin Cortez, reporting over the Chile 125.
Hong Kong journalists stage a silent protest against police mistreatment of reporters covering the city's ongoing anti-government protests during a police press conference, which was later cancelled as a result. Here's more.
好嘛，咁因為你除低咗嗰個標語佢啦，好嘛，因為我哋喺咁呢個並不是一個示威嘅地方嚟嘅，大家要知道。嚟到大家記者會，而家有記者會嘅時候，我哋想有啲資訊俾大家知道，並不是喺度 展示一啲咁嘅標語，去表達你哋自己嘅一啲睇法或者一啲訴求。解釋你有解釋，我唔會你有你嘅言論自由。不過而家我請你哋6位離開，好嗎
？The journalists facing the police violence becoming serious. For example, last day, several journalists, including Star News photographers and student reporters of Baptist University, were arrested. We definitely discontent with this situation. Today we are not protest, we are not assembly, we are just using our clothes and make some, I would like to say, is declaration to show our attitude towards and hope that to urge the police to change and stop the violence against the journalists.
Several thousand Catalan protesters marched or massed in Barcelona on Monday, seeking to disrupt a visit by King Felipe VI as the country barreled towards another election under the shadow of the separatist crisis. After weeks of soaring tensions in Spain's protest-hit northeast region, triggered by the Supreme Court's jailing of 9 separatist leaders last month, security was tight for the royal visit, during which the monarch gave awards to talented youths. Gathered in the city, several thousand people rallied with all manner of banners and slogans, including "Death to the Bourbon" or "Monarchy," and "Barcelona will be the nightmare of Felipe VI." Since King Felipe's arrival on Sunday, security has been tight with a large number of forces deployed around the venue. King Felipe VI drew the ire of Catalan separatists 2 years ago when, at the height of the crisis, he sternly denounced the independence bid and urged the authorities to ensure constitutional order. His intervention came just days after the region staged a referendum barred by Madrid, which was marred by police violence, and later issued a short-lived independence declaration, triggering Spain's worst political crisis in decades.
In other news, an iron boat stuck above Niagara Falls for more than a century has moved because of severe weather, according to a park official. Let's take a look.
Iglesia Ni Cristo's aid to humanity continues all around the world. Here's EBC correspondent Crystal Ann Ballesteros reporting from Cambodia.
The Church of Christ, or Iglesia Ni Cristo, in cooperation with Felix Y. Manalo Foundation, hosted an aid to humanity in Cambodia. Together with their friends and loved ones gathered here in Variety Pagtamay to show love and unity in this one-of-a-kind event. was also held in Siem Reap, led by a minister and other members of the Church of Christ in Phnom Penh. With the light and smiles on their faces, goodie bags with non-perishable items were given to guests invited by members to listen and to pursue in attending Bible studies and to learn more about the teachings in the church. This event is to continue in giving hope to people and to open their curiosity about the church. As part of this event, an evangelical mission was also conducted and officiated by a resident minister, Brother Villamor Catabona Jr.
In our evangelical mission with Aid for Humanity, conducted by the Iglesia ni Cristo or Church of Christ today in the Kingdom of Cambodia, we can observe the eagerness of our friends and our fellow men as they listen to the teachings of our Lord God being revealed today in this gathering. And the guests were very receptive, and they want to know more from the teachings of our Lord God as we observe in our activity. And this activity of the Church of Christ will be continued to different places all throughout the country or kingdom of Cambodia, because this is in response to the call of our Executive Minister, Brother Eduardo Manalo, to further intensify the works of propagation, and so we spread the gospel even in far places or in villages of this country.
It is such a delight to see members of the Church of Christ voluntarily joining this kind of event launched by the church administration that shows love and unity with the society wherever they are in the world. For the Aid to Humanity here in Cambodia, I am Crystal Angalesteros and I am one with 25.
More news will be coming your way when Eagle News International returns.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business every Saturday from 5 to 6 p.m. Open for Business, from vision to action.
Hong Kong stocks extended the recent rally to 4 days on Tuesday as investors took their lead from a record performance on Wall Street, buoyed by China-US trade optimism. The Hang Seng Index rose 0.49% or 136.10 points to 27,683.40. The benchmark Shanghai Composite Index climbed 0.54% or 16.07 points to 2,991.56, while the Shenzhen Composite Index, which tracks stocks on China's second exchange, also rose 0.54% or 8.90 points to 1,655.61.
The province of Nueva Ecija has long been referred to as the Rice Bowl of the Philippines, but as Eagle News correspondent Thomas I. Likeness reports, parts of the province these days are looking more like a salad bowl. Watch this.
Fields such as these used to be seeded with rice, but with cheap imports pushing rice prices down, farmers are turning to other crops, such as vegetables and fruits. This field will soon have onions. In this one, string beans. And here, under the plastic coverings, melons have been planted. Last growing season, it cost some farmers more to grow their crops than what they could sell them for, and that just doesn't make good business sense. Vic Zafra is a rice grower. He says something has to be done about imports.
My advice is to limit the importation, support first the farmers, ask what is the problem of the farmers before they go to importation. They support, they make a subsidy to the farmers.
As well as low crop prices, he says farmers are faced with high input costs for fertilizer, pesticides, and fuel. Zafra says he's considering other farming options.
I considered planting onion, planting vegetable. I also engage in fish farming because of the problem in our rice price.
Zafra's son, Levy, agrees low-priced rice from other countries has hurt farmers.
Actually, there's a big change in the business when the imports came into the country because the palay price got affected. Palay price today is around 12-13 pesos. Unlike before, they can buy it around 17-18. So many farmers are not having a good year this year because of the price of rice, palay.
Levy had been a rice trader, but left that business this year.
Because it's hard to sell the rice today. Not like before, you can sell it immediately. Now you cannot. It's hard because there's competition from the imported rice.
Rice grower Adilberto Durang says he can still afford to seed rice because he has off-farm income. That means he doesn't have to go to the bank to borrow money to put in a crop. But he says young farmers starting out just don't have a chance in today's economic environment.
But again, for a young person, it's difficult for them to survive because this alone, seeds only cost 18,000. Wow! If you make a loan from the bank, wow, that is 6 months. 6%, 6 to 10%. You cannot.
Durang also wants the government to do something about input prices.
They should regulate the price of fertilizers per bag. They should the inputs like insecticides, the herbicides, molluscicides, and all the spray materials that cost us very high.
Unless the economics improve, roadside scenes such as these may be less frequent. Growing rice simply just doesn't pay the bills. Not all farmers are making the switch to alternate crops. Some are still growing rice, toughing it out, hoping that prices will rebound. Meantime, though, the cheap imports continue. Near San Jose City and Nueva Ecija, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News. I'm 1 with 25.
Thank you, Thomas. Meanwhile, an immigration minister aims to end migrant workers' exploitation in New Zealand. Here's more from our EBC correspondent, Greg Besa.
The migrant workers in New Zealand play an integral part in creating a productive, sustainable, and inclusive economy while they are providing the much-needed skilled labor force in vital sectors and industries across the country. In recognition to their significant contribution, the New Zealand government has made a series of immigration policy changes aimed at ensuring a safe and fair working environment for migrant workers, among others. no other than the Immigration Minister, the Honorable Ian Les Galloway, who has discussed this particular policy direction of the New Zealand government. At a forum hosted by the Good Heart New Zealand Philippine Foundation and the Victoria University's Filipino Students Association, the Immigration Minister Ian Les Galloway emphasized that the present government is committed to end migrant workers' exploitation. He explained that a set of visa changes, including the simplification of an employer-led visa processing, will help in stamping out exploitation of migrant workers. He said that it is unacceptable for employers to mistreat and exploit their foreign workers. While he said that the government is ready to enforce the laws against abusive employers, he also clarified that it is important for migrant workers to know and understand their employment standard and their rights to work safely and free from being exploited. As work exploitation comes in many forms, the Immigration Minister encouraged those who are exploited or have been victimized of such to come out, speak up, and report it to authorities concerned.
It takes migrant exploitation very seriously. It's something that's been ignored for too long in New Zealand, and we have to deal with it. And I know that a lot of people feel very vulnerable. They're worried about speaking up because they're worried about what the impact might be on their immigration status or on their job. The new proposals that we have brought out and are consulting on right now are absolutely designed to support people so that when they come forward, they will be taken care of, they will get certainty around their immigration status, and they will have the opportunity to move into a new job that's not exploitative and which they can get the income from to be able to support themselves and their families. So I really do encourage people to actually engage with the consultation document that we have published, to tell us more about the proposals, to tell us what you think, and to make sure that we're doing the things that you need to feel safe and secure in New Zealand and to be able to speak up about exploitation.
The Immigration Minister also announced during the forum that he launched a public consultation 2 weeks ago, calling all stakeholders concerned to make submissions in tackling migrant exploitation to the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment, deadline of which is on Wednesday, 27th November 2019. He stressed out on how important the migrant workers are to New Zealand, and as they are and will continually be providing the skilled labor force to support and sustain the thriving regional economies in the country, they must be treated fairly. He even specifically mentioned the contributions made by overseas Filipino workers to the New Zealand economy.
Oh, look, our migrant workforce is hugely important. Our economy would come to a halt if we didn't have our migrant workforce. And of course, people come from all around the world and they contribute to our society and our culture. And they give us, as a small trading nation, a long way from the rest of the world, connections with the world around us. So our government, just like all governments, value our migrant workforce. To our Filipino migrant workforce, thank you so much for helping us build the buildings, build our roads. You're part of our aged care workforce, our health workforce. We would be lost without you. And I really encourage you to be part of your community, to be part of your unions, part of your community organisations, and make yourselves known in New Zealand society. We need to know more about Filipino culture, and we need to see you so that we can make sure that you're having the best possible experience in New Zealand, and that all of us are getting the best out of that relationship.
On the other hand, those who attended the forum expressed their appreciation to the Immigration Minister for sharing his time in discussing a number of issues behind the recent immigration changes.
It was indeed a pleasure to be with the Minister this afternoon. We had voiced out our concerns regarding the changes of the immigration policy, most specifically the current category visa, as well as other concerns and issues wherein the Minister had really answered with honesty and the best of his ability. And we were all very satisfied and still looking forward to the revisions of the policy.
The forum was really great because the minister managed to express, some of the policy changes that I think are actually beneficial for our workers, for migrant workers in particular. And one of the things that I really liked about the talk was around the research that they did around exploitation, and they're now getting people to submit, to do submissions for all the policy proposals that they do have. And I think there is an opportunity for us to actually provide really useful sort of information.
Yes, was really very informative forum we had with the Immigration Minister, Honorable Ian Lees Galloway. Very informative information. The questions were answered, talking about the employer exploitation and also about the changes that happened in the immigration. It was very well explained, and there is a reasoning behind the changes and all that, so which we do appreciate, and we have got a lot of in-depth information.
I enjoyed the talk of Minister Ian Lees Galloway. The key takeaway from me is that the policies are good for workers if the employer will give them more than 25-hour salary. So there is no need for labor market tests. They can bring their families here and the stand down period will not apply to them.
The New Zealand government is committed and determined to eradicate the exploitative practices by unprincipled and abusive employers on their respective migrant workers. Yet, this is just one of the many issues and concerns affecting the foreign workers in this country, which the government needs to address with urgency. From Victoria University of Wellington, New Zealand, this is Greg Bessa. I am and will always be one with 25.
The Washington Nationals celebrated their first Major League Baseball World Series title with a victory parade. Ken Cruz reports.
There's a lot of things going on here in the United States, particularly here in the nation's capital. Large and serious issues like threats of war, the economy, impeachment. Today, for the people gathered here in the streets of D.C., none of those things are a priority at the moment because the Washington Nationals are the World Series champions for the first time in the franchise's history.
Although some people just became fans of the Nats recently, the World Series win by Washington had just as much impact.
It's amazing. We've gone with a couple of other GC teams. We haven't had the best of luck, but I mean, pretty cool, especially now coming to the parade, seeing everybody just united as one is pretty cool.
My first time and it feels amazing.
For longtime Nationals fans, this win meant so much more.
Being from DC, born and raised, and of course being a supporter of every home team, Wizards, Redskins, Nats, when they were 19 and 31, a player like Bryce Harper, it's like, okay, well, it's just another DC team, another bad season. But when they turned it around and, eventually winning 90 games, it was like, okay, and actually getting into the wild card round, I was like, okay, maybe we got something here, but they're probably going to lose. And then seeing them make it out of the wild card round, and then beating the Dodgers, and then beating the Cardinals, it was like, okay, I think we're on to something. And making it to the World Series, of course, was pretty big.
Whether one was a first-time admirer of the Nats or a loyal fan who's witnessed the ups and downs of the franchise, many agreed that the win and even the victory parade brought Washington, D.C. together.
I feel like it helps us just because, like I said, you could see during the parade, everyone was just united, everyone's energy and their vibes just kind of pumped everyone else up. Everybody was just friends with each other without even knowing our names. It was pretty cool.
Seeing DC win, it actually gave a lot of hope for the city because, like I said, being from DC, growing up in DC, you don't really have much to cheer about. But the baseball team winning, it's like it's a different atmosphere. It actually brings a lot of people together, especially with everything that DC has done in the past 4 or 5 years. It brings the human out of people. you see that in more ways than none, we're actually all pretty much alike. And we can all come together and cheer for a common cause.
From the Nationals victory celebration here in Washington, D.C., I'm Ken Cruz, 125.
In National Hockey League action, the Washington Capitals rallied back to secure the comeback win over the Vancouver Canucks at Rogers Arena. Here's Anthony Sevilla for the report.
The Washington Capitals rallied back from a 5-2 deficit heading into the third period, forcing the game into overtime and defeating the Vancouver Canucks 6-5 in a shootout at Rogers Arena. Michael Kempny and Evgeny Kuznetsov led the Capitals in scoring. Both notched a pair of goals each, while Canucks forward Tim Schaller scored a pair of goals also.
The Vancouver Canucks led the Washington Capitals 2-1 after the first period. The Canucks caught fire in the second period by scoring 3 straight goals from Elias Pettersson, Jake Virtanen, and Tim Schaller. Schaller's goal in the second period made it his second goal of the game and his second goal of the year. However, Capitals forward Evgeny Kuznetsov notched his second goal of the game in the final seconds of the period, completely shifting the momentum heading into the third. Washington pulled one of the biggest comebacks this season. Lars Eller inked his 4th of the season, and Michael Kempny scored back-to-back goals in the third period and forced the game into overtime, leading to the 6-5 shootout win for the Capitals.
You know, I love the way that we didn't give up, and huge comeback, huge win for us. You know, we just tried to, you know, come back in third period, and that's what we did, and huge 2 points.
That's huge 2 points for us, and you know, get back from 5-1. That means a lot for guys inside the team. You know, we stick to each other. We stay with the game plan. Even the game not going well, we give up some bad goals, whatever, but we stick with that plan, and we get the results.
Canucks head coach Travis Green showed his disappointment after the loss, especially being up 5-1, but also showed respect to the Capitals' adversity.
You expect to win that game, but you see it a lot. Momentum changes fast. We could have put them away. But again, I got to be realistic with our group, and we did some good things, some things we can build off of going into next game, and you'd like to have the 2 points tonight. Whenever you're up 5-1, you don't expect that you're going to be standing here talking about a loss. You know, and give their team credit. They've been through these games many times. They're a big, strong team. You could see it in certain areas of the game where I thought we lost a few puck battles and certain situations. And you know, again, they're built to win Stanley Cups, and you know, we can learn a lot from this game.
Washington end their Western Canada road trip and will head back to D.C., where they will host a pair of home games. The 2 points earned tonight puts them in the top spot in the Metropolitan Division. The Canucks' loss separated them from the rest of their division, which dropped Vancouver to the bottom of the Pacific Division. Anthony Sevilla, Eagle News, 1/25.
There are many positive things that sports can do to our bodies physically. Socially, sports can also bring different people together. As our ABC correspondent in Germany, Irene Arzadon, reports, families, friends, communities from different parts in Central Europe came together for the INC Unity Games. Irene?
Sports brings people together. Today I am here at the Sports Center Olympus in Utrecht in the Netherlands. I am Irene Juret Arsadam reporting for ABC Bureau, Germany and Central Europe.
There are only a few types of sport where you can play on your own, whereas in basketball and volleyball, you need a team to achieve victory. The Unity Games are held once in a year in Central Europe for the members of the Church of Christ. This time it is held in Utrecht, Netherlands. It is located 50 kilometers south from Amsterdam. The members who are coming from neighbor countries such as Germany, Luxembourg and Belgium are arriving by bus and cars and accompanied by families and friends. To be united, that stands in the foreground. Playing together as a team, having fun, as well as Gerd tells us.
Unity Games is that we are united as a Church of Christ. So the brothers, sisters, and same with the friends, but we invite them. And yeah, that we have fun together, but we don't forget that we are Christians, and yeah.
This activity is not only meant to entertain the family through sports, but also through arts. The young members are also performing a musical show during the halftime to heighten the mood and to create variety. Their colorful jersey shows uniformity and shows which country they represent. Whether winning or losing, it's a whole activity for the family. I am Irene Juliet Arsadon for EBC Bureau Germany, and I am 125.
Thank you, Irene.
Thank you, Irene. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Tumblr. Also check out our boards and Pinterest and pictures on Instagram. I'm Sam Cepeda. Thanks for joining us.
And that's the news for tonight. Join us online and here again tomorrow evening from all of us here at Eagle News. I'm Alma Angeles and we're one with 25.